Maybe. Thanks, Dracos. It is us. Great cast of the day, by the way. Welcome to Worlds Cooldown. I am Freak. That man is Papa Smithy. That man is Fischio.
Hi.
Hello. How you both doing?
Great.
It's been a day.
It's been a day.
It's been a day.
It has.
I think it's been a great day for Europe. G2 wins 3-1. You know, great games.
Yeah.
And Splice actually did manage to push SKT quite a bit, even pick up a win. Like, it's hard to ask for a lot more as a European fan than what we got right here.
And not often do we come into semifinals and say, there could be 4 winners of Worlds. Like all 4 teams that have qualified for semis,
Yes.
in different ways, are very justifiable bets for Worlds. You know, the tipping competitions, we call it in Australia, is wide open. And how many Worlds can you really say that about now that the Korean era is largely kind of its last legs and maybe re-emerging? It's just so hard to call.
Yeah, because so often we had the Korea semifinal, and then
With
some
the other Korean team on the other side of the
Korean
bracket.
team, and then the outside, or like
Yeah.
the
Like
one team who
2016,
couldn't
yeah.
actually beat them anyway, and then we got that 3-0 semifinal.
Yep.
I think a 3-0 semifinal is impossible at this World.
That's a big word.
I wouldn't say
Well,
impossible.
I said it.
Oh, you did.
It's
You did.
impossible.
Called it.
Even though I think you could
Quote
call
me on this next week.
any of the series in either way. We'll do semis talk at the end of the show. For now, I want to talk about the series that we had. Oppo player of the game for G2. Last I heard it was Perkz. It is indeed Perkz. Perkz was absolutely incredible. The ones where he won, I think it was something like combined 19-2 and 19 in those first 2 wins on Marksman. Like that was incredible. Played super, super well. Overall, was fine in Game 4, but you heard him say it as well. Yes, I was happy with my performance today.
He played some really insane team fights, and obviously also in the laning phase, he did set it up very nicely to then pick up a bunch of kills with his team. And I think it fits very nicely that Perkz is becoming the face of European League of Legends. And he's now also the captain, the face of G2 Esports, who's taking down Damwon today and moving on to a semifinal, where for the first time in a long time, I actually feel like a European team is now favorites. Actually, I'll take that back, because that was C9 Fnatic last year. Anyway, it was a great point upwards in the last part.
And at the end
Nice
of the,
try.
and
I tried.
You think about Perkz and his role swap is kind of what I was struck by, seeing him up there, obviously, adoring fans, MVP of a quarterfinal. And the thing I'm struck by about Perkz is because he didn't come from the AD carry, traditional AD carry history, playing thousands of games, grinding up to level 30, really always being that role. I'm struck by how he always knows what his role is in a game, and it's not always to clean up, like an AD carry so often has been. We think of his flanking teleports that work, on the domestic stage. He always understands. Sometimes he's side lane farming as if he's in a 1-3-1 as a mid laner. He always knows his role, and that's why it's more often than not that he's fulfilling it and dominating in these games.
Yeah, I got to say, he's the most aggressive bot laner I have seen this year, and I really want to echo your point, though, about the role swap. Coming into this year, Perkz was top 2 mid laner in Europe. Very, very strong player internationally. He says, you know what? That's fine. That's not enough. We need to bring in caps. I'll go bot lane. I talked with Ocelot at All-Stars in December, like right after the World Championship, and was like, so Perkz bot lane. And he's like, yeah, no, they're confident. Like, they're aggressive. They're good. It's going to work. Trust me. And honestly, this was a winning team. This is a very strong team, and this felt like this could have so easily been a catastrophe, where Perkz would not have been a good bot laner. All your good advantages thrown away. You grab the best mid laner in Europe in caps and throw it away with a bad bot lane, but it's not that. Perkz is an incredible bot laner.
Yeah, I mean, so you're mechanically good, you're smart about the game, you can play any champion then, and then of course you have to adjust to the lane and playing 2v2, and I think picking up Mickey was very crucial for them, because Perkz has given a lot of credit to him, especially from Spring Split, teaching him a lot of things about how to actually play bot lane and really how to push your advantage, because Mick has always been super aggressive player who wants to fight early in the lane, so there was a lot of things they could teach each other, and I know Perkz has had great impact on the rest of the team when it comes to especially the overall macro, like how do we play this game, how do we push an advantage. He brought in a lot of things there, or he brings a lot to the team, so I think it's a nice combination where, and we talked a lot about this like during the year, you managed to put together 5 players who are all mechanically very good, and then they have kind of the same idea of how to actually play the game. No one is hesitating, no one is very limited in terms of like champ pool or whether they can play late game or early game, and it gives this insane combination.
And just to wrap up the Perkz point, to me, he's like the modern generation Prey. Prey was this AD carry who was praised as a shot caller and could shot call the game, even though, of course, you have that red dot syndrome and need to get all the farm up during a game. So to be able to be a shot caller and a leader from AD carry has often been a contradiction of terms, and I think Perkz, especially now, redefining what it is to be a bot laner and a captain and a leader, is just the complete package.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Of course, more G2 clips here as you mentioned, the whole team is very, very good. This was what? This is the Oriana game? No, there's a Zion in the back line.
There's finishing move in game.
Yeah. Closing up moments.
Yeah, closing up moments here into this one. I mean, just overall amazing. And you think back to the fact that they've got carries in every single role. Like Perkz had a really, really incredible game 4, consistently spending time at the top lane, getting Wonder set up onto that. Like so many good things happens across his entire team.
Yeah, and I actually think it's worth highlighting that the other player we were talking about for MVP, it was Caps. Even though Caps, in terms of like overall score, didn't go 10-0 or whatever like Perkz did, he actually ended up in 3 out of 4 games having full control in mid lane. Even in the game they lost with Renekton, he actually had control early game. It was just later on he couldn't do anything. And he managed to use that every single time to then start roaming to these side lanes. Multiple times bot lane when they got Perkz ahead, or in the last game, he is straight up to top, shutting down this idea of Irelia to potentially kill the Ryze in lane. And I think just that impact ended up being probably the most important thing for me, because Showmaker was one of the people we hyped up so much coming in saying, he can carry for his team. The solo laners need to win. We look at him specifically. And he ended up on scaling picks that had no early game impact too often in this series.
And you think of Caps, and again, I'm just struck by these previous tournaments. You remember his hot head, the fact that he could have the big games, but he could also have the games where he struggled on Fnatic. Even if you think back to G2 versus TL in the group stage of MSI, he had the performance there. He was trying to reach for too much and didn't get it going. In this particular tournament, I think he's been kind of understated at points. He hasn't necessarily shined, but he's been consistent. He's known his role, at least. He hasn't necessarily stepped too far. And I feel like everybody, even though the team is known for its high highs and its kind of joking nature on social media, everyone always knows their role on the team. And that's a pleasure to watch. They really are a team that I will seek out to watch at any moment in any tournament.
Yeah, push comes to shove. They, turn it on when it matters most. Now, of course, we have the other match to talk about that happened today. SKT versus Splyce came through, and the expectation was SKT clean win. Most would have been 3-0, but Splyce did make them work for it.
It was a clean 2-0. But it wasn't a best 3, right? It was a best of 5. And the rhythm that they lost, as Splyce leveled up, Splyce, to their credit, were not passengers in game 3 and 4. They were active contributors, picked up the win in game number 3. Game number 4 was also competitive for some of it as well. Humanoid especially really looked like he was having a fantastic series towards the end of it especially. But it's going to be a really weird one to reconcile, because we're going to have to predict an SKT versus G2 semifinal based on recent performances, which is often what you will inflate the most. And SKT unconvincing, even though the first 2 games didn't look close.
I mean, I think didn't look close. I think the first 10 to 15 minutes in those games were actually fairly evenly traded. Obviously, SKT always kind of had the upper hand, but a big thing I noticed in this, but also in group stages from SKT, now the faster, more aggressive one, is that they're not very good at protecting the weak side of the map. Like when they make a play on one side, the other side is overstaying in their lane. So now they're open to a tower dive. They give up a bunch, because that's what happened in those first games as well. They tried to play through top, and then their bot lane just fell behind because they ended up, stuck, kind of greeding a little bit more than they maybe should. And I think the fact that everything is going so fast for SKT, they're not at the point yet where it's super clean across all 3 lanes combined. I think G2 will sometimes make the same mistakes, but not as often. And it's one of the big things I look at for that specific series.
SKT is still evolving, when it comes to this style. It's still evolving to a final point that I guess for now is undetermined. But G2 are G2 and playing G2 style. So it's fun to see SKT aspire towards something rather than just be the pinnacle of excellence like they were for so many years.
Sure.
And meanwhile, G2 in a best of 5, we still kind of saw most of them. And honestly, if I just compare the teams on today, I'm more convinced by G2 than SKT, in spite of the games in some ways.
Right, I agree that today G2 did look more convincing. The player I really want to hone in on is Faker, because this is the best player of all time. That is unanimous. There is no debate to that. And he's been a star for SKT. Almost every year he's been on it, he's been an absolute star. Today, I didn't see it. Today, it felt like he was outlaned and overall outplayed by Humanoid. If you compare Faker to Humanoid, that should not ever happen until Humanoid has more years under his belt. Can he become that good? Of course. But in 2019, Faker should never have a best of 5 where Humanoid is better than him. That's what it felt like today. And that to me is Faker. Did you not sleep well last night? Did you not eat well this morning? Like, why did you not show up as the best player of all time at the World Championships?
I think a lot of metrics support your argument, right? A lot of games, there was a CS lead for Humanoid in the laning phase, but it's always so difficult to know what his role was in this game. He wasn't super sloppy by any means. He was unremarkable, but it could be that his brief was to do certain things for his side laners. And Khan, for example, had a really good series by his kind of recent reputation and standards. So I find it so hard to just come out and say, you know, sloppy performance, will Faker bounce back? Will it be next time? It needs to be soon. But I kind of get where you're coming from in that you didn't walk away thinking, typical Faker in a best of 5. And you only get 3 to play when it comes to Worlds, right? And that's still something to talk about.
So I think today in the 2 series, we ended up having kind of like a meta that fit both of them at the same time, where it wasn't about killing the enemy mid laner. It wasn't about having your mid laner get like mega far ahead and then he just solo carries the game. It was all about just push priority and then go to whatever side lane you have a strong combo that you want to get ahead.
Yeah.
You know, we saw multiple up in the top lane with some carry picks and then at the same time down in the bot lane, which is also why to me, like the Kayle pick specifically, ended up, especially in the G2 versus Damwon series, actually being a bit of an issue.
A bit of a bait, right?
A bit of a bait, basically, because it could not contest the early push, and when it was put in the mid lane, but also in top when Wonder used the Jace to then go mid and take a bunch of turrets. I think more focus needs to be around just push priority in mid, and maybe less about, is my mid laner actually 10-0 and solo winning me the game? Because there's so many other carries in the other lanes that can actually do it for you.
Well, a lot of carries left in the tournament. These semifinals, let's look at them. First one, Fun plus Phoenix versus Invictus Gaming. FPX win the coin toss. They will have side selection. The other semifinal, G2 versus SKT. SKT win a coin toss and get side selection. And I want to quickly table set here. I love these matches because we have the 3 regional champions of every region left at Worlds and the defending world champions. I could not have asked, other than maybe Team Liquid being in there, you know, I could not have asked personally for a better set of teams in semifinals.
And there's beef between these teams, right? IG and FBX regional beef, SK Telecom and G2, of course. SKT feeling like if they had gotten ahead of G2 in that best of 5 at MSI, what a different story it would have been. They would have been on the Grand Slam pace compared to their opponents on that day. So, I mean, these are both really interesting series, and I know a lot of people will sleep on the old China semifinal to focus on all the very clear Western narratives around G2 and SKT. But these regional beef semifinals are often layers upon what's happened at the tournament, but also what sort of picks worked between these teams in their domestic region. These 2 teams could have been scrimming pretty late into the bracket. That's been pretty common with the Chinese teams. So there's always something next level. And what I will confirm, my very heavy suspicion, is that the 2 best of 5s we get next week won't look similar, even though they're played one after the other. I think there'll be a semifinal meta over here, semifinal meta over here, and there won't necessarily be 80% overlap like there might be in other series.
I feel, as a European or Western fan, of course, super excited for G2 SKT, but I still feel like Invictus Gaming versus FPX, I don't know if I'm more hyped, like almost. Part of me is like, as a person who just want to watch like really awesome best of 5 League of Legends, the fact that we have FPX, who I feel like played very, very smart against Fnatic.
I would say the best of the 4 teams that played.
Yeah, they had full control in that series, and they knew exactly what to do against Fnatic, and I felt like we had a bunch of players also individually just looking fantastic. I think Tian in the jungle, doing B, of course, on Ryze. Maybe it doesn't get to play that. You know, that might be just the first pick of that series. But like seeing that performance and how well they played in the LPL, like they will know how to play against IG.
Yeah.
And where IG is the whole thing, we're just sitting there and we just, you know, you sit a little bit disappointed, a little bit more disappointed, and then you see the Shy do something, you're like, yeah, there we go. Yes, do that again, do that again. You know, and like, that's kind of the IG thing that you want. And you don't know what IG's playing because they can have their AD carry in the front line who dies 10 times and they still win. And they can have solo laners getting a bunch of kills, even though I don't think that's happening too often right now. It will not happen that often against FPX. But there's so many awesome things in that matchup that actually makes me super excited.
And, you know, we had IG versus Griffin, and we wondered, will it be the Shy Sword? And then, you know, kind of the Quizzical looking sword. And the Shy, you know, that actually proved to be the dominating narrative of that series. And now we have the Shy Gimgoon. And Gimgoon is probably a rich man's sword in terms of how they play him, right? He's a weak side top laner who doesn't get a lot of help. Is that just the Shy adds another to his death note and runs through him all the way to the final? It's very possible.
So the question is that enough? Who wins? IG versus FunPlus Phoenix? You can go deeper next week.
Both these predictions are so insane to consider on the moment.
I mean,
I think FPX will win.
Okay, you think FunPlus? It's too close to call for now?
I think IG.
You think it's IG? So split there. SKT versus G2.
G2.
G2? Snap call?
G2.
Okay.
Do you have,
I know you were hemming and hawing in the caster room a minute ago. So.
I have 3-1 G2.
Okay.
I actually think they're just better than SKT.
Well, it's in 6 days. That one's in 7 days. It's going to be exciting. Worlds is turning up the heat. If you missed any of today's action, make sure to stay tuned for the rebroadcast taking place starting shortly after we sign off. I could have said either one. Don't know what that was about. Either way, that's going to complete our coverage of the weekend. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week with our top 4 teams. And as we go, let's take a look back at the quarterfinals with Axe big moves of the weekend. Good night.
A single auto would kill him, and that won't burn him down, but now it's time for the top side. Rooted in place.
But it's just about making... Oh!
Flash gets him to safety, but over the wall! Forcing the flash on a North Scar. Oh, comes across! Big flash flay! That's one kill coming through. Faker, so the Chiefs gonna fight a second now as well. The fight on the bottom side. TP comes in, looking to knock down Teddy. Can they kill him? Yes, they will. A 1 for 0, but can it be enough? They're gonna try. This is the attempt right now. A lot of damage. They're gonna knock the first one. Zersei drops effort, drops aggro, and now Kami's forced to run. But that train is in. Rock jump now for a nice buster shot to not get skewered back in, but they're gonna find the first route, but pulled onto the turret by effort.
Chachi's still looking to go in.
Got it.
Oh, that is with a hook right on in, and Faker just can't get away. Faker knocked up. He's running. Exhaust is on the ult to try to stay alive, but it's SKT who are routed, and over the top goes Zersei. The kills are coming through.
This is all on Zersei.
Over the wall, big damage, and Faker sets it up. Answers the questions. SKT, gods can bleed, but they will not die. A quarterfinal win, 3-1, and we'll see you next week.
Nagari doing a lot of damage, but here comes Mickey X looking for the engage, the Divine Judgment. Nuclear to the backside. The Kaisa is big, but not big enough. They have managed to take it, but now can they take the fight? Barrels into the back line, but will it be enough? Eyes on Caps, eyes on the Shockwave. He has used the Nuclear right to the backside, and the Kaisa is too strong. She goes into the wall. It's free auto attacks. It's a clean sweep. Powered route. Where's it going to go? Perkz stepping forward. Flash in from Showmaker. Perkz now in trouble, though. He's taking it now. Showmaker now turning it back. The double kill for the Corki mid lane. They are going to burn him down in the end. Play going to come through on top side. Easy knockup with the Gragas ult available. Caps is trying to dash through, getting his montage moment. We'll wait for the ult. That's it. That's going to be everything that they wanted. Everything they can hope for. Nuclear now free to deal damage. Jake Moose running for his life. One's splitting attention. He's split his attention. He couldn't decide where to go, and that might cost them everything. Nuclear, it's not going to be enough. G2 will move on to the semifinals for the MSI rematch versus SKT. The last of the LCK versus the last of the LEC.